What happens when a fearless 12-year-old girl faces the ultimate Halloween dare? Let's find out. On the outskirts of a small town, wrapped in autumn twilight, stood the infamous Holloway Estate. The mansion, with its towering spires and Gothic architecture, had long been a subject of local legends and ghost stories. Its windows, dark and foreboding, seemed to watch over the town like eyes filled with secrets. The estate was surrounded by a wrought iron fence, its gates rusted and overgrown with ivy, adding to the air of mystery and abandonment. For years, kids dared each other to get close, but none were bold enough to enter until Lucky came along. Lucky was different. She had always been fascinated by the unknown, the unexplained, and the supernatural. Her friends often called her brave, but she preferred the term curious. She had heard the stories about Holloway Estate, the ghostly apparitions, the strange noises, and the tales of a hidden treasure that no one had ever found. Curious and fearless, she was drawn to the house's creepy tales and rumoured hidden treasure. She spent weeks preparing for her adventure, gathering supplies like a flashlight, a map of the estate she had drawn from old records, and a small backpack filled with snacks and water. She even read up on ghost hunting techniques, just in case she encountered any spirits. On Halloween night, with a heart pounding with excitement and fear, Lucky pushed open the rusty gate and ventured inside. The gate creaked loudly as if protesting her entry, but she was undeterred. The path leading to the mansion was overgrown with weeds and fallen leaves, crunching under her feet as she walked. The air was cool and crisp, filled with the scent of autumn and the faint hint of something old and forgotten. The air was thick with dust and mystery. Every step she took stirred up clouds of dust, making her cough and blink rapidly. The interior of the mansion was just as she'd imagined, dark, eerie, and filled with the remnants of a bygone era. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ghostly drapes, and the furniture was covered in a thick layer of dust, as if time had stood still for decades. Faded portraits watched her as she stepped across creaky wooden floors. The eyes in the paintings seemed to follow her every move, adding to the sense of unease that had settled in her stomach. She couldn't help but wonder about the people in those portraits. Who were they? What had happened to them? And why did their eyes seem so sad? Suddenly she heard a child's laughter echo from the parlour. It was a sound that didn't belong in such a place, light and carefree, yet tinged with an eerie quality that sent shivers down her spine. She paused, straining to hear more, but the laughter had already faded into the silence of the house. Was it real, or just her imagination? Lucky shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts. She had read that old houses like this one could play tricks on the mind, making people hear and see things that weren't really there. But the laughter had sounded so real, so close. She decided to investigate further, her curiosity piqued. She followed the sound, finding an empty room with a dusty piano and a cracked mirror. The piano, once grand and elegant, now stood as a silent witness to the passage of time. Its keys were yellowed and chipped, and a thick layer of dust covered its surface. The mirror with its spiderweb cracks reflected a distorted image of the room, adding to the sense of disorientation. In the mirror she saw a fleeting figure, a girl like her, whispering, "Help me." The apparition was faint, almost transparent, but there was no mistaking the plea in her eyes. Lucky's heart raced as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. Was this the ghost of a child who had once lived in the mansion, and what did she need help with? Driven by an unexplainable force, Lucky climbed the creaky stairs to a glowing room filled with childlike drawings. The stairs groaned under her weight, each step echoing through the silent house. The glow grew brighter as she approached, casting an eerie light on the walls. When she reached the top, she found herself in a small room, its walls covered in drawings that looked like they had been made by a child. There were pictures of happy families, animals, and scenes of everyday life, but there were also darker images, shadows, monsters, and eyes that seemed to watch her. In the center, a small, ornate box beckoned. It was intricately carved with symbols and designs that looked ancient and mysterious. The box seemed out of place in the room, as if it had been left there deliberately for someone to find. Lucky felt a strange compulsion to open it, as if the box held the answers to all the questions that had been swirling in her mind. Inside, trinkets and a locket shimmered in the dim light. The trinkets were small and delicate, each one telling a story of its own. There was a tiny silver spoon, a worn-out doll's shoe, and a piece of ribbon that looked like it had once been part of a child's dress. The locket, however, was the most intriguing. It was made of gold, with intricate engravings on its surface, and it seemed to glow with a light of its own. As she lifted the locket, her flashlight went out, plunging her into darkness. The sudden loss of light was disorienting, and for a moment she felt a surge of panic. But then she remembered the locket in her hand, its warmth and light providing a small measure of comfort. She fumbled with the flashlight, trying to get it to work again, but it remained stubbornly dark. Emerging from the shadows, the ghostly figure of the girl pleaded, "You found us. You have to help." The ghost's voice was soft and filled with desperation, and Lucky felt a pang of sympathy. She wanted to help, but she didn't know how. What could she do to free the spirits trapped in the mansion, and why had they chosen her? The house trembled, and in that moment Lucky realized it was more than just a haunted house. It was a place of power, a nexus of energy that had trapped the souls of those who had lived and died there. The trembling grew stronger, and she could feel the house's anger and sorrow as if it were a living being. It was a tomb of forgotten memories and trapped souls. Each room, each piece of furniture held a story of its own, a fragment of a life that had been lived and lost. The spirits were bound to the house, unable to move on, and they needed her help to find peace. Grasping the locket, Lucky vowed to help these spirits find peace. She didn't know how she would do it, but she was determined to try. The locket seemed to pulse with energy, and she felt a connection to the spirits, as if they were guiding her. And so, her adventure to unravel the mystery of the Holloway estate began. She explored every room, every hidden corner, searching for clues and answers. She spoke to the spirits, learning their stories and understanding their pain. With each discovery, she grew more determined to help them find peace. Drop a like and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales and thrilling adventures.